"Stop, please," Anna screamed, her legs, already too frail to walk even passably, collapsing as she was pulled along behind the golf cart. Mrs. Baker stood harder on the accelerator, the rope biting further into my daughter's wrist. All this because of a bird feeder that hadn't been approved by the HOA. Our neighbors were left stunned, wondering in horror how the most defenseless child in the whole town was being treated like a common criminal by a woman more concerned with bylaws than decency towards human beings. But today Karen picked the wrong family to harass. Before we get to the full tale, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for further true stories. "Quicker, rules are rules," Mrs. Baker snapped, her tone icy as she sped along in her golf cart. My daughter Anna, 12 years old, was attached at the back with a rope. Born with compromised legs, walking has never come easily for her. The second I heard her cries out, I tore out of the house, and what I saw almost brought me to my knees. There was Anna, being dragged across the sidewalk. She was doing her best to remain upright, but her legs shook. Her face was streaming with tears, red from the exertion. "Stop this! Now!" I yelled, running toward them with all the strength I possessed. Mrs. Baker, our HOA's heartless president, better referred to around these parts as Karen, barely looked back. "Your daughter broke the rules," she snapped. "She installed a bird feeder without asking permission." That bird feeder, it was everything to Anna. Having been bullied every day at school because of her disability, bird watching had become her solace. Her therapist even said it was good for her depression. The feeder had been her grandfather's gift to her. "She has a disability. She can't walk fast," I yelled, but there was no avail. Anna's legs were shuddering, on the brink of collapse. At last, Mrs. Baker halted. Anna fell to the ground, wailing in pain. I flung myself to her side, my hands shaking as I unbuckled the rope from around her wrist. A red swath had developed where the rope had ripped through the skin. "I'm sorry, Mom," she breathed, almost too quiet. "I didn't know we weren't supposed to have the bird feeder." Mrs. Baker got off her golf cart, wearing an expensive ensemble and large sunglasses. She clutched a piece of paper with printed words in her manicured fingers. "No yard changes made without advance HOA approval," she said stiffly. "That'll be a $200 fine." Neighborhoods began to congregate, appalled by what they were seeing. "You tied my disabled child to your golf cart and pulled her down the street," I repeated, my voice shaking but angry. "Over a bird feeder." She waved her hand in a dismissal. "Take it down by tomorrow, or the fine gets higher." And with that, she drove away, leaving us standing there in the middle of the street. Later that evening, after icing Anna's wrist and at long last getting her into bed, I sat in our kitchen table in silence, and I knew this wasn't over. With my husband, Tom, we called the police. "They'll be there tomorrow," Tom said to me, "to take pictures of Anna's wounds and talk with her." I nodded mutely, gazing down at the photos I'd just taken. Anna's inflamed wrist, her knees scraped up, and the bruises on both hands. "My sweet, gentle child. She just wanted to see birds out of her window," I whispered. "We relocated here because they assured us it was safe, a friendly place for kids with disabilities. How could this have occurred?" Tom glared at me with flames in his eyes. "We're going to take care of this," he told me. "No one injures our daughter and just walks away like nothing did happen." The very next morning, Officer Wilson came to our house. He was patient and gentle with Anna, taking precise photographs of every wound and writing down every detail of what she said to him. Not long after he departed, our doorbell rang. It was our neighbor, Mrs. Green, from right next door. "I saw it all go down yesterday," she said softly. "I videotaped the whole thing on my phone. I thought, you might want to have this." She let us watch the footage, sharp videos of Mrs. Baker securing Anna to the golf cart, then racing off as Anna struggled to walk, until her legs failed her and she was pulled along the pavement. "I've lived in this neighborhood for 6 years," Mrs. Green said. "Mrs. Baker has been awful to so many families. Just last month, she made Mr. Garcia take down his son's basketball hoop, said it was too visible from the road. By evening that same evening, 5 additional neighbors stopped by our home, each of them with their own tale. Stories of heartlessness, intimidation, and HOA enforcement by Mrs. Baker. What she did to Anna, it was not her first act of cruelty, but we were determined that it would be her last one. 7 days later, we had a letter from the HOA in our mailbox. It informed us that we now owed $500 in fines. The new offenses? Disturbing the peace and slandering a respected HOA official. She's trying to intimidate us because we got the police involved, Tom snapped, his voice seething with anger. That's when we encountered Ms. Lopez, a lawyer renowned for standing up to local corruption. She explained something we had wondered but feared to hear. Mrs. Baker had allies in the city government, individuals who defended her for years, in spite of repeated grievances from neighbors. But this time, Ms. Lopez explained, she crossed a line. What she did to Anna, Ms. Lopez described, constitutes numerous state and federal violations, abuse of a minor, discrimination on the basis of disability, and unlawful restraint. And the icing on the cake? You have video testimony, several eyewitnesses. We don't only want justice, I stated decisively. We want to ensure no other child ever endures this way again. The next Monday was the HOA's monthly community meeting. Mostly, only a few would show up, enough for Mrs. Baker to control without conflict. But this time, as Tom and I drove into the parking lot, we were shocked. The parking lot was jammed. Within the building, the meeting room was wall-to-wall packed with neighbors, standing room only. Everyone was here. The room was filled with neighbors, more than Mrs. Baker had ever seen at a meeting. She appeared stunned as she sat at the head table. Before we start, she said, rapping her tiny wooden gavel on the desk, I want to clear up the false rumors being circulated about how I enforce our community's rules. As president, Point of order, Mr. Garcia stood up and said. By HOA bylaws, if a majority of homeowners want, we can have an emergency vote. Mrs. Baker's face turned a deep red. That wasn't on the agenda for tonight, she snapped. Neither was parading my disabled daughter down the street. I stood up, my voice shaking but firm. The room became silent. My name is Linda Taylor. Last week, Mrs. Baker dragged my 12-year-old daughter Anna behind her golf cart and pulled her down the street, just because she put a bird feeder on our tree. I raised my phone and displayed the photos of Anna's injuries. My daughter is medically ill. She is not able to walk in a normal fashion. She wept. She pleaded with you for mercy. But Mrs. Baker kept on going. Mrs. Baker pounded the table with her gavel again and again. These are absolutely lies. I was only carrying out orders. We've got video, said Tom, placing himself next to me. Several of our neighbors videotaped the whole incident. Mrs. Green arose next. I move that we vote, together now, to take Mrs. Baker out of the HOA presidency and to audit every fine she's ever issued in the last 2 years. I second that, interjected Mr. Garcia. Mrs. Baker's face was now red with rage. You can't do this. The rules explicitly say, Come on, cut in Mr. Wilson, an old man in the front row. I'm a retired judge, and I've read the HOA charter carefully. It does mention that board members who harm community members can be removed. He glared at her in the eye. And what you did to that child definitely fits the bill. The vote came quickly. The tally, 58-3. Only Mrs. Baker, her sister, and one faithful friend voted against her being removed. As she quietly gathered up her stuff, I stepped into the fray. This is far from finished, she spit at me, eyes glinting with anger. I have acquaintances in this community. You're right, this isn't, I answered icily. The police continue to investigate what you've done to my daughter, and we're suing you, individually and as an HOA representative. Then I waved toward the doorway. There were reporters there waiting with cameras. And what about those friends of yours? I added. I don't think they'll still be standing by your side once the entire town reads this account. In the next few weeks, everything changed. The district attorney formally indicted Mrs. Baker for child abuse and endangerment. Her so-called friends in the city disavowed her in a heartbeat. Our suit moved forward, and a number of our neighbors came along with them with similar tales of her cruelty and intimidation. The video of Anna's abuse went viral, and news channels broadcast our story. Disability advocacy groups contacted us with promises of help, And Anna, courageous, gentle Anna, was asked to give a presentation at a school about how to stand up to bullies. "Mom, do you think there are mean people in other neighborhoods like Mrs. Baker?" Anna asked one quiet night. "Maybe," I replied truthfully, "but they also have nice people, such as Mrs. Green, Mr. Garcia, and all of our neighbors who defended what was right." Anna nodded consideringly. "Then I want to help other children too." 6 months on a balmy spring afternoon, I stood in our backyard observing Anna instruct a group of children how to hang bird feeders. The new HOA board, now headed by Mrs. Green, had not only embraced bird feeders, they had initiated a full neighborhood bird sanctuary program. Families throughout the neighborhood participated. Bird feeders suspended from branches, flowers in backyards, and birdsong filled the air. The program had even received a local wildlife award for developing one of the most outstanding urban bird environments. Anna moved gently between the kids, her colorful leg braces decorated with painted birds, as she explained which seeds attracted which types of birds. She laughed freely, more than I'd seen her laugh in years. "Your daughter is incredible," said Mr. Wilson, helping assemble a wooden birdhouse. "Most people wouldn't have the strength to turn something so painful into something so beautiful." I smiled, seeing Anna smile with her new friends. Her physical wounds had healed months before, but the nightmares and fear had taken longer to disappear. Therapy was helping, and day by day she was getting stronger. The trial of Mrs. Baker had concluded last month. She was sentenced to do community service with disabled children, take human rights and empathy courses, and pay damages that would cover Anna's medical treatment for years. But the most compelling transformation was initiated by our state legislators. They enacted a new law to safeguard individuals with disabilities against discrimination by homeowners associations. They called it Anna's Law. A local newspaper reporter came by later that day to take pictures of the sanctuary. "How did your neighborhood transform after all that had occurred?" she asked. I gazed out at the smiling children, the flowers in bloom, the birds' wings fluttering in the trees, and at Anna, her finger extended excitedly as a blue jay settled nearby. "We learned something valuable," I replied. "When people stand up together against bullies, actual change can occur. One mean person can hurt others, but a strong community can create something better." Anna glanced my way, offered a beaming smile, and gave a thumbs up. The bird sanctuary was just the start. Sometimes the toughest things we endure bring the most significant changes, if we're strong enough to stand up and fight. And we were.